Hello my friends and welcome. This is the hardest Subnautica mod ever made. But Bacon, you've already played this one in the past. Yes, when I did, I played it on what were the default settings of the mod. This was because I imagined that would give me kind of the intended experience. However, within this mod, there are settings and you can crank those up as high as you want them to be. What do these do exactly? Well, let me give you the rundown because today we're gonna be turning all of them
to the max.
Personal crash depth will be set to 200 meters. This means going any deeper than that will require a specialized suit, otherwise I will get smushed. All incoming damage will be increased by 2 to 3 times. I will have to deal with nitrogen accumulation, which means I have to surface slowly, otherwise it will deal damage or even kill me. The surface air will never be breathable unless I use an air pump or a specialized filter for the suit. I will not be letting myself have any special air tanks in the game, only using the default ones. The life pod location will be random, meaning I can spawn in a number of preset locations, and the life pod will then sink to the bottom and topple when it lands. All creatures will be much more aggressive, with buffs to their vision, even being able to see me through terrain on this setting. Water will be extra dark and extra murky to make it very difficult to see. When the Aurora explodes, I have to be at least 100 meters underwater, otherwise the explosion will kill me. And it will explode after only 45 minutes from starting the game. Radiation will affect all water up to 200 meters deep. The radiation effect on my screen will be increased much more than usual. The costs to building tools and buildings will be increased. I will need to scan many more fragments to unlock blueprints. Batteries will be much harder to craft. Batteries will hold considerably less power than they do normally. Everything will cost up to 3.5 times as much power as normally, or 6 times as much while irradiated. I will be losing massive amounts of power whenever I exit the vehicle. I will be running vegan, which means I can only eat plants, which will only grow at 1/6 of their normal speed. Food from the island will never be edible. I can't use the filter pump by the Aurora. Oh, and by the way, I can craft no vehicles up until I've cured myself from Kara, and my knife does no damage, meaning I can't fight any creatures at all. If that sounds absolutely insane to you, that's because it is. My question here is it possible to play the game this way? And if so, is it possible to progress through it? Well, let's find out. But before we do, is it a boat? Is it a plane? No, it's the incredible new Bacon plushie keychain, guys. After a year, here we are back with some brand new merch. I'm so excited to be partnering up with Gimme Swag again to bring you guys this cute little thing. You can use it to decorate your keys, you can use it to decorate your microphone, use it to decorate your plushie, use it to decorate your fingers, I don't know. It's super cute and it will only be available for the next month, guys. So if you're interested and you want to support the channel, please go and check it out. The link is down in the description. It would mean the world to me. Thank you all so much. Oh yeah, and I failed to mention this, but we're gonna be playing on hardcore, which means if I die, I have to start everything fresh from the beginning. Now I started the game as usual, and I got the terrace spawn. Of course, my life pod immediately started sinking down. In case you're curious, the terrace spawn is right around here on the map, and it is not a very nice one, since as you see, the life pod, which toppled upside down by the way, ended up being nearly 100 meters underwater. Not a great place. First, I was gonna make water from a bladderfish, but then I realized that is actually considered non-vegetarian, which means I can't use that. I started by kind of cautiously swimming around and gathering the resources I would need for a knife. You have to remember, all the creatures here have heightened aggression, so even exploring a kelp forest is massively more dangerous. But I was able to make the knife without any major difficulties. Here you can also see one of the other major problems. As I'm crafting this O2 tank, the power in my life pod is essentially out. Just like that after crafting 2 things. This will be a massive problem going forward, the power cost. You can also see me gathering some creepvine samples here, which will become my primary source of food. After waiting for the power to regenerate, I was finally able to build myself a scanner. Another nice quirk of the Deathrun mod, you can see new tools are built without a battery inside of them. That's fun. And here you can start to see the water murkiness and darkness come into play. Like, I can't see a thing in this game. It is so dark everywhere. But I was able to make a copper zinc battery, which is terrible, but it will do the job for a little bit. Yeah, this really puts into perspective how dark the game was, by the way. Like, without a light source, you just can't see a thing. I was able to find some sea glide fragments though. As you can see, I need a lot of them. I started gathering whatever fragments I could find, such as the scanner room ones. I wasn't quite sure this is something I would end up building, but it will be nice to have for the future. Here I was able to build a pair of fins, which will let me swim a bit faster. And here I actually started using flares to find my way around. You can carry these around, and when you turn them on and off, they can actually last for a pretty long amount of time. It didn't make seeing easy, but it definitely made it easier. Here I decided to finally build the pump, which would let me go to the surface and actually survive there after deploying it. Much of the time here at the start was spent in the vicinity of the life pod. Because of the nitrogen accumulation, I couldn't actually afford to go as far as normal to get stuff, because coming back if I was below the depth of the life pod would be very, very slow. Now you might be wondering, what on earth am I going to drink? Well, here I decided to implement a new strategy by gathering some salt deposits, which can be combined with some corals into bleach. I was also able to finally build some pipes to use with my air pump. As you can see, I was pretty excited about that. Honestly surprised I was still alive. I was now able to slowly surface. You can see the nitrogen bar moving here. This is what I have to look out for. Once at the surface, I was able to deploy my pipe, use it to replenish oxygen, and finally surface, even though, of course, I can't breathe on the surface. I could, however, get my pipe and head towards newer grounds to explore. I decided to make my way deeper into the kelp forest here so that I could explore a bit. Also happened to find a brain coral. I decided to slice it so that I could have some of the slices to maybe plant later to give myself places where I could replenish oxygen. Here you can also see me kiting the stalker around. This is something I would have to get very good at. The massively heightened aggression in all fauna meant that there was something attacking me at pretty much all times. I was able to make my way into the safe shallows, or a piece of the safe shallows, where I was able to slice the giant coral tubes to be combined with salt for some water. I mostly swam about the shallows looking for a bunch of fragments like the sea glide, which would definitely come in handy later. I was able to start finding some mobile vehicle bay fragments as well in the adjacent kelp forest. And by cleverly using brain corals, I was actually able to extend my time underwater a fair bit. I found a small wreck here and I was able to get a bunch more blueprints from around it, such as for the bioreactor. Again, you can see for a lot of these, I need plenty more scans, but heck, it feels good to at least be progressing on these. Here I was finally able to craft some water with my new strategy, and then I was able to make my first high-capacity O2 tank. This would massively extend the time I can spend underwater, which was sorely needed. Here you can see me scanning my first sea moth fragment, and then the sadness that ensued when I realized I would need to do that 19 more times. What is wrong with the creator of this mod? Oh yeah, and the Aurora is about to explode in 9 minutes, but at least there's some laser cutter fragments, that's nice. I was able to make the rebreather. Now the thing is, I won't be able to use this for long because the radiation is coming, but it will make the next 6 minutes a bit nicer. And then it was time for the ship to explode, and the thing is, I made an error. And I didn't realize at this point I had made an error, but it was probably the biggest mistake of this run. You see, I forgot how far the radiation from the ship would extend in this mod. And so as I chilled at 115 meters on top of a mushroom in the mushroom forest, I thought I was just safe. The ship would blow up, I would come back to my life pod and proceed as usual. I had plenty of oxygen to spare, but boy oh boy was I wrong. Now the ship exploded, I thought I was just fine. However, remember when I said my life pod wasn't quite 100 meters underwater, it was just close? Well, I soon realized that as soon as I got into my life pod, I started taking radiation damage. And not just a little bit, like a lot of radiation damage. Here I had to pause and really rethink my strategy. Super fast, I checked the requirements for the radiation suit, only to realize that I should be able to have all that. I quickly exited the life pod again, swimming below the 100-meter mark, and now I knew I was on a limited time. The problem is, my life pod doesn't have enough power to craft everything I need, and I have limited oxygen and even more limited healing. This was gonna be tough. Frantically, I swam around looking for the necessary resources. I was able to find both the creepvine stuff and the lead I would need to craft, but I knew I did not have a lot of health to spare. Quickly, I jumped back into my life pod, opened the fabricator, built the fiber mesh, but oh no, at this point, I did not have enough power. Also not enough fiber mesh, by the way. And you can see the radiation was damaging me massively. I was on very borrowed time here and even more limited oxygen. I gathered more creepvine and then I just had to wait. I knew the life pod didn't have enough power and I knew I would have to make the best with what I have, which was one more medkit. When I was just about out of oxygen, I jumped back into the life pod, grabbed all my remaining medkits, then realized I did not have enough power for the suit, so I jumped out again and decided to wait. I knew this is all I had. These were all of my resources. I had nothing else left. I just had to hope that the oxygen I had on me would be enough for my life pod to generate power so that when I hop back in for the last time, because I couldn't heal anymore, I would be able to build a suit. I waited as long as I possibly could. And then, at last, as my character was starting to black out from lack of oxygen, I jumped inside, used my last medkit, built a radiation suit, swapped to it, and I was safe. Oh my god, like, I had to record this right after, and I think this provides enough explanation. Alright guys, I'm not kidding, that might be the greatest Subnautica moment I've ever had. Like, I genuinely have to record this. I've never had that happen before. How on earth did I make that? What the heck? So, having somehow survived, I went back to the safe shallows to explore. No more rebreather for me for a considerable chunk of time, but at least I would no longer be dying. That said, that annoying radiation effect is something you better get used to because it's not going away anytime soon. Now, I did find a crash fish here, but in my big brain moment, I forgot my knife does no damage and nearly ended up dying to this thing. Yeah, let's not do that again. I was finally able to build a repair tool. This would be super handy since once repaired, my life pod could actually generate more power. I was able to finally repair it and it even flipped right side up, which was a very nice moment. You can see I'm pretty happy about it too. I explored one of the wrecks in the grassy plateaus, getting some new blueprints, such as for the propulsion cannon, as well as for the sea moth. Look at that, guys. Only 17 more to go. Here you can yet again see just how much I'm able to see with this new water darkness and murkiness, which amounts to essentially nothing. I tried to explore the underwater islands here, but I realized I was way out of my depth and super unprepared for this, so I had to bail on the mission. Back at base, I built myself a waterproof locker. I don't ever build these, but I was running out of storage space in the life pod, and it didn't look like I'd be able to build a base that soon, so I figured this would be a nice intermediary step. And of course, I had to keep chugging creepvine to stay alive too. Here you can see I made another high-capacity O2 tank. I love using this strategy, and of course, because I can't build vehicles for this run, it will be absolutely essential so that I can switch between O2 tanks and always have enough oxygen. Here you can see I was able to get some more sea glide fragments, having to fight this stalker for it, just circling around, and this was enough to actually unlock the sea glide. Super awesome. At this point, I needed magnetite, and the only place where you can find it within reason are the jelly shroom caves. So I prepared myself, took a pipe down there, and then went for the deep dive. The biggest thing I was afraid of here were the crab snakes. With the massively increased aggression and them being able to see me through walls, I figured I could die very, very fast here, so I just wanted to be in and out as quickly as possible. Luckily, I was able to gather the resources, even managed to find some diamonds down here, which was very lucky. And then, without overstaying my welcome, I quickly made my exit. Went back into some red grass and found life pod 17. Here you can also see me constantly battling creatures which are pushing me at any given time. I could have up to like 6 of those sharks on me at once. Yeah, the increased aggression is no joke. The biterfish especially would become a massive pain later. I was then able to finally unlock the mobile vehicle bay, having scanned enough fragments, and I then headed to another wreck in the grassy plateaus. This one happened to be a bit more useful as there were many blueprints around it, such as fragments for the battery charger. With the magnetite, I was finally able to build the habitat builder, which was super nice, because I will absolutely need this to get close to the Aurora. With this equipped, I decided to finally build my first outpost in the safe shallow so that I would have easy access to all of its resources and blueprints. Also, you can notice here how much power building all this stuff is taking. Like literally one compartment with a hatch and a solar panel took like 30% of my battery. What? On the inside, I finally built a proper locker so that I would have somewhere to store all my stuff, really making sure to optimize the little space I had. And opposite to it, I built myself a fabricator. With the base in place, I set off on a bigger mission, the island. Now the reason I wanted to go here is for a bunch of blueprints, and also because the path to it from my base is actually pretty safe, passing through areas that should have no leviathans in them. Of course, I wouldn't be able to breathe on the island, so I had to take my trusty pipe setup and set it up by the beach. Then once I had filled both of my oxygen tanks, I was able to run up and start scanning stuff. I tried, and yes indeed, you cannot use the plants. They will literally fall apart in your hands, but at least I was able to scan the exterior grow bed and a few other building parts. Oh yeah, and I also got myself a purple tablet, which is pretty cool. Back at base, I was able to build a sea glide. This one would come super handy later, though of course I wouldn't be using it much now because of the massive drain on batteries it has. And then I decided to set off for the Aurora. The thing is, I need to fix the ship at some point. And while I know I'm not going to be able to do that just now, I will need to set up some sort of a vantage point nearby, since remember, my air pump is not going to work by the time I get all the way to the Aurora. For example, here, the pump would no longer work. Luckily, I was able to fill up both of my oxygen tanks, and I had enough resources to build stuff, but just look at how murky the water is. Like, I can't see a darn thing until it's right in front of my face, which does not bode well for encounters with reapers that I will inevitably have here. But hey, at least I got some water. I swam pretty far toward the front of the ship, and then decided to build a small compartment with a single solar panel that should give it just enough power to produce oxygen, and of course a hatch to get inside, and there was my outpost. On the way back, I was able to find a time capsule. Thank you so much for leaving this one behind. It was actually super wholesome. And then I decided to go look for the laser cutter. That was at least up until I heard the roar of a reaper in the distance, somehow, which I quickly backed away from. Yeah, as it so happens, I had accidentally swam all the way to the edge of the dunes. Let's never do that again. Here, I decided to explore another wreck in the grassy plateaus. You can also get an idea of how many fish are chasing me. There's like 7 biters around me at once. I have to circle around the pipe to get away from. But this wreck actually turned out to be the most useful one that I would find, since it had a ton of blueprints inside and around it. I was able to unlock the propulsion cannon, and I believe I even found the entire battery charger in here, as well as some pieces for the modification station. I did nearly drown like 3 times in here, and this shark literally lodged itself right into the entrance, so thirsty to get me, but I was able to get out of there alive. Here I went to explore what I think is probably the final wreck in the grassy plateaus, which I hadn't gotten to yet. I still didn't have the laser cutter, and I knew it would be very important to get, but oh my goodness, look at all these biters. This was an absolute nightmare. I really couldn't stay still by the pipe, since I would have like the entire biome converge on me, so I always had to keep moving and take whatever oxygen I could get. And then finally, after a ton of effort, I was able to get the final laser cutter fragment and unlock the tool, which, as you can see, made me very, very happy. I then had to quarrel with another crash fish. I had the sea glide on me, and I was able to get the sulfur pretty easily, which meant I was able to craft the laser cutter. And then, well, I figured I kind of had everything. With one more oxygen tank in my pocket, I decided to head for the Aurora again. Let me tell you, it's absolutely terrifying swimming through this water when you cannot see a darn thing. I waited till the morning, and when the sun came up, I took one final breath and decided to swim toward the front of the ship and toward the reapers there. But that takes us to the end of this episode, guys. I'm gonna have to split this into multiple parts. How many? Honestly, I cannot tell you. I did the original Deathrun in 4 parts. I'm not certain I'll be able to do that again. This is taking an incredible amount of time. I mean, I cut out so much waiting and so much grinding from this, so please be a little patient, but I promise I will get to part 2 as soon as I can. If you guys want to help support the channel, please check out the keychains. It would mean the absolute world to me. Link is down in the description. And with that, I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, maybe consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. All those would be very much appreciated. And with that, I'm gonna wish you all a beautiful rest of the day, and I'll see you in whatever next video I make. Bye bye.